So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my podcast, Girl with the Camera. And it's my pleasure to welcome writer and director Rob Ayling, a huge Batman fan, by the way, which you're going to find out very soon. And his film, Living in Crime Alley, starring Vincent Jerome, won over, actually, I counted 28 awards. So maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure, but a lot. And I'm not going to name all of it, but yeah, it's impressive, to be honest. So welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. Lovely introduction. Yeah, a bit of a Batman fan is it's a good way of putting it. We'll keep it like that. We'll keep it like that. I have no idea if it's 28 or if it's 30. I mean, to be honest, the fact that I can say I've lost count is quite arrogant, but at the same time, it's it has been overwhelming.
I'm going to put the link into the description of the podcast and the YouTube video as well, so people can go and watch it, or they can just search Living in Crime Alley on YouTube and it comes up right away. So to give a little bit of context, can you just shortly say what is it about to kind of tease the audience?
Yeah, sure. So Living in Crime Alley tells the story of a single father trying to bring up their daughter who is a massive fan of The Dark Knight in one of the roughest areas of Gotham City known as Park Row, Crime Alley.
So you have written this story. So I'm going to kick this off. What inspired you to approach this father and daughter relationship and this story in general?
So the old-fashioned phrase of "you write what you know" it can be very much applied here. So there's two factors to this. So I wrote this script back in 2017 when I had just been made redundant from my work, and if you've ever been made redundant in your life, it's one of the worst feelings ever to lose your job, and in that way. And not only that, I was feeling creatively low, and I decided to pick myself up by writing essentially a story around somebody struggling financially. And then on top of that, I'm a product of a single parent upbringing. So I lost my father when I was very young. I've been brought up by my mum for most of my life. And I kind of merged those two stories together, pondering lots of questions. And my mum herself has been made redundant as well. So I've seen firsthand what it feels like to be in a very difficult financial position, but also in one of them in a quite deprived area of London, which is where I was brought up. And as you can imagine, you can see it all around me, and I'm practically wearing it as well.
Nice hat.
Yeah, and the hat too. Yeah, exactly. I'm a huge fan of Batman, and I pondered the question: well, what would happen if a character like Batman was to come across these type of characters, these Gothamites, ground level characters who have struggled financially, and yet behind the mask is a boy who lost his parents, yes, but has been brought up with through privilege and money and has not had to have that financial struggle. So it's a really interesting question to be brought up within the world of Gotham. And for me as a fan and as an audience member, it's something I haven't really seen before in the Gotham universe. And that's why I wanted to delve into that kind of world and perspective.
The reception from people and feedback is amazing. You also did the trailer and you also did the black and white noir version of that, which is really cool as well. So basically you had the story in your head, which character you thought of first, and did you think about this is how they're going to look like? So when you were casting, or you had your casting director, not sure, you went for this vision, or was it completely different?
So in terms of the casting and in terms of characters, the one that it's funny because I identify with essentially all the characters within the film, including Batman himself, in many ways. But the father was essentially the character that I very much saw myself in the most. And then I would say, secondly, the child, because I think we all have, well, we're all children first, but we all have that child instinct, fan fare where we just react to things naturally, and the character being a Batman fan themselves, it was, natural to put two and two together as well. And in terms of the casting, when it so in the case of the script and the casting, I didn't write any specific like race and when it came to the casting, I was very open casting. So I met with many actors and actresses for the roles of the father and the child. And in the end, it came down to who was the role and what can they bring to the role, and also are they really good as an actor. And it came down fundamentally down to talent. It was never a conscious choice because again, it's something that has been brought in the past, sadly, which is, I think it's a sad way of looking at casting nowadays, is, well, why would you cast a person of color to be in these films? And it's like, well, for me, it's an important thing because me being half Indian myself, we are underrepresented. People of color are underrepresented on the screen. So I want to make sure that we do see more people like us on the screen. And with the casting of Vincent and Bella, it just felt natural because they are the characters to me. They were the people that walked into the audition room, and I instantly said to myself and the casting director, these are the characters. These are the people that are going to give us the truth that we need to be seen on screen. And they're incredibly authentic in their voices and their personalities. What you see on the screen is who they are, and it's infectious as well.
Yeah, the performance, all the performances were great. And I love the fact that you casted a girl. So basically, it's kind of like we always say, oh, little boys are like, they want to be Spider-Man and Batman. And, now I see like a little girl and she wants to be a Batman, basically. And I just it really spoke to me, because I think we shouldn't limit our kids, and just to like heroine characters or whatever. So that was, I really loved it. So
you can thank my casting director for that one as well, because she was the one that recommended Bella to me for the auditioning. She said, if you don't cast this little girl, then you've made a huge mistake. And but to be fair, like, I knew straight away that Bella was going to be the one for the film, because her energy was infectious. Her ability to, I mean, if you can believe it, this is her first on-screen acting role. And wow, she's an absolute natural. And when it came to the auditioning and the callbacks, we knew straight away after the first audition. But when it came to the second one, when it came to costume fittings and stuff, we just knew that there's a star in the making right there. And again, my casting director said, if you don't cast this little girl, then you've blown it, basically.
Yeah, I agree with that, I think. Brilliant job. So before I go on to the other questions, so it really stuck in my mind when you said, so you were made redundant, right? And it's a big deal. And something amazing came out of it, actually, because you wrote this story. And when you're in this situation, in terms of like maybe financially and so on, or insecure, you decide to make a film. Like, how this happened, like in terms of like budget, or what's
really interesting about the making of this film in particular is, so I wrote the script back in 2017, but it took me a full year to fully realize that this was the film I should have been making. It only took me until the very end of 2018, once I got myself financially all together again, and into a position I felt very comfortable in. So I joined an agency where I was lucky to be a filmmaker, camera operating, editing for corporate videos and advertising and recruitment marketing, all that jazz, right? But then throughout that year of 2018, I still wasn't creatively fulfilled because I had this burning desire to have something to say, and yet I kept saying, oh, well, I've got this and I've got that. And if I'm completely honest with you, Nicole, I was afraid to fail. That was pretty much what the fundamental reasoning I didn't make the film sooner was. I was scared to make that big leap again, because even taking the job that I had, which I did get made redundant from, I relocated. I had completely changed my life up to that point to move towards the job that I just got, and was working there for several months, and relocated the family and everything, and then to just get it made redundant, snapped just like that. It took a massive blow to me, and I didn't feel like I was comfortable enough to take that risk again. But then so many people kept saying to me, Rob, you've got this idea. Why aren't you doing it? This is you on a page, and I just kept saying shoulda, woulda, coulda. And eventually a friend of mine said one of the best sentences he's ever said to me in my life, which was, you're a filmmaker that's not making films. And that really took me by surprise. And even to this day, I thank him so much for that, because it was one of the best sentences I could have been told, because he was absolutely right. I had something to say, but I wasn't doing my job. So that's why all the way back at the end of 2018, December time, I decided, you know what? I'm sick and tired of saying shoulda, woulda, coulda. And I want to say, at least I gave it my shot. At least I could say I have done this. And as I've learned now, in many cases, but in this particular case, definitely, sometimes you have to fall hard to learn how to pick yourself up again. And that's the best lesson that you can teach yourself, not just in film and filmmaking, but in life in general. If you fall hard on yourself, then the best lesson to learn is to learn to pick yourself up from it. And I mean, thank God I did, because look where we are now. It's overwhelming, but still, yeah, amazing.
Exactly. Like now we're talking about this film, and so many people seen it. Oh my God. It's, I'm so glad you did take the risk that turned out to be such a great result. So you had your story, and you got feedback from people. So you told that story, or you send your screenplay to your friends to give to get opinion, or like how many people did you show it to?
So back in 2017, I submitted it to a couple of fan fiction festivals, because I literally was just like, I've written this. Here, have a read, go and have a read, whatever. And so the fan fiction festivals came back. They were very nice. We actually picked up one award from one of them, which was lovely. A former DC entertainment comics like writer, story editor had read it as well. And he said it was really good. Could have been a one-off issue if you wanted it to be. I tried to have a talk with them about that, and they said they can't do much on that side, which was a bit of a shame. But he's funny enough suggested, why don't you make that into a fan film? But again, I just was very adamant. I was like, nope, I'm not making this. This is, making a film is not only a big financial leap, but it's a big general leap in faith in your journey, in your life, because you will dedicate most of your time to it. And whether it's a feature or a short film, you're dedicating so much time to it. Morning, noon, and night, you are literally thinking about the film 24/7. For me, when people talk about what are the working rates of a filmmaker, it is literally 24/7. You're non-stop thinking and you're non-stop working. So with regards to the sending the script round, I really didn't care at the time. I was very cautious. I wasn't cautious whatsoever. I was just like, here, have a read. If, my next door neighbor wanted to have a read, I'd be like, here, you have a read, And funny enough, it's how I discovered Vincent for the role of the father initially, because I posted the script online on Twitter or something, and he'd seen the post somewhere, and he said, I've heard you've written this script. And I was like, yeah, here it is, have a read. And this was, again, back in early, like January of 2018. And he said, mate, this script is fantastic. If you ever decide to make the film, please consider me for casting. And again, I was just like, no, I'm not making it. I'm not making this film whatsoever. Look, it's very sweet of you to ask and, to suggest that and everything else, but I'm not going to make it. And then towards the end of 2018, I then come back to him and say, when I sent you that script, I've decided I'm going to give it a shot. And he was like, I'm so glad you've changed your mind, because it's too good of a script to let it just be never made and just to be like an undiscovered thing online somewhere. So yeah, again, I have so many people to thank for the decision to actually just say, yeah, make it.
So in terms of planning,
Mm.
what kind of director are you? Do you need a storyboard with like every single shot from every single side, and then you send it to everybody to study? Or do you also leave the room for some improvisation on set and so on? So what's your way of working?
That's a good question. So for me, I'm a bit of both. I love to storyboard. I mean, my background was in concept and storyboard art. I used to do that for directors for commercials and short films and features. So it became like a natural thing for me to transition into doing storyboards for myself. And for me, it's like the script itself. It's a good blueprint to have to start off. And then once you bring in your crew members in, especially people like the director of photography, you can then have a sit down conversation with them and say, well, this is really, this is just the blueprint of what's in my head. What do you have to say to bring into this as well? Because if it's all just me, it's not going to work. People want something to have something to attach to it as well. And when it came to things like direct photography and director relationship, it was very much here's a blueprint with my storyboard sketched out with certain, shading and lighting done in certain way. How do you think we could bring something like this to the screen? Or do you think we can bring something better? And in the end, it was a lovely relationship between the two of us where we were able to bring both my ideas and his ideas together. And even he was, making suggestions like we should definitely do film noir. We should go down the low-key lighting route, because we're so especially with the Marvel movies, as much as I like them, don't get me wrong, we're so overexposed and overly saturated with the colors of those films now that they kind of seem to merge into one like set thing of set look. Whereas with a character like Batman and the universe like Batman, you have the possibilities to go completely elsewhere in terms of the look and style. And that's why things like German expressionist cinema, silent movie cinema, and as mentioned, film noir was such a big influence towards it. But it was down to our communicating and collaboration with one another that we were able to discover that. So I'm very much an open director with when it comes to collaborating with crew members, because there's no point in hiring somebody and telling them to do this and do that when they've got something as well. They've got their own thoughts and ideas, and that's why it's always funny when you hear people talk about the making of their films and stuff like that. They never ever say, "Oh, it was all down to me." They will always say it was down to somebody else as well. Because if it was just all me, then it's just you're not. That's not believable. It's a collaborative effort at the end of the day.
How do you choose your DPs? Do you have like one DP that you work with, or did you cast him, or did you like find him somewhere?
Well, with Ross, it was someone who I've known for the best part of maybe, God, how long have I known him now? 12 years? I've known him for 12 years, and we hadn't worked on any projects at all. It was the first project we worked on together, because we were always constantly backwards and forwards saying, "Oh, we should do a project together. Oh yeah, no, it'd be really good," and everything. We were literally bouncing backwards and forwards because he was Bristol-based, I was London-based. Then eventually I became Bristol-based and London-based. And eventually when it came down to making the Batman film and making that decision, I knew straight away, I was like, right, here's another situation where I'm not going to say, "Oh yeah, we should do this." Where we can actually say, "Ross, we're finally going to work together, and it's going to be on this particular film." And I'll never forget his reaction when I said that to him. Like I said, like, "I want you to be involved, and I also want you to be my DP for this." And he was just like, "This is like literally the like a dream, like, like the dream project for him to do." So it was lovely for him to come on board and be a part of this journey. And but traditionally speaking, I like to seek out as much different diverse talent as possible. So I'm not always sticking to one director of photography. So back in my earlier shorts, I had people like Ben Calloway, who's a fantastic DP as well. I worked with a fantastic DP once called Laura Gallup, who just so many great talent, diverse talent out there. And as much as it's really good to have like one DP, like that you can trust back, like to collaborate on multiple projects and everything, I do think it is beneficial to branch out and also discover new voices out there as well, because you will grow as a filmmaker and they will grow as a filmmaker as well.
How long you filmed, and how long did the editing was?
So the whole process from pre-production to filming and post-production was a full year. So from January of 2019 all the way down to December of 2019, and if you can believe it, this film was actually shot in a day and a half. So a day and a half in September. So if I remind myself, it was the evening of the 13th of September and then all day the 14th of September. And from there, it went straight into post-production, and with quite a quick turnaround, I might add, of visual effects and color grading and editing. And it was released on December the 13th, 2019. So pretty much 2 months of post-production work done very tight.
Nice. And I love the score for the film. The
score's amazing. Yeah,
it really has the atmosphere.
Yeah, no, Christian Lloyd is an amazing composer. Again, that collaboration was wonderful because it was the easiest conversation we had, which was, we can always look back and listen to what's been there beforehand. So people like Danny Elfman, Shirley Walker, Hans Zimmer, of course, and Elliot Goldenthal. We can hear back and hear different voices and different atmospheres of the Batman being created. But I remember we both collectively looked at one another and we just said, we want to create our own unique sound, definitely. And I'll never forget, I remember it's so funny because obviously the Batman is coming out next year and there was the trailer with the Nirvana track, Something in the Way. I remember saying to Christian back in 2019, I would love it if we had like a 90s grunge Nirvana feel to the score. And he literally picked up the bass guitar and he started playing Come As You Are on the bass. And then he just went, well, what if we did something like that, but we mixed it up a little bit? And what you hear in the Crime Alley soundtrack was essentially what he played. And I instantly was just like, you've got it. You know exactly what this world is. You know exactly what the sound is straight away. You don't need any more direction. It's just go with your gut and go with your instinct, because what you have there right now is speaking so much than to what I had in my own interpretation, which is why it's so easy to work with Christian, because you literally give him a script and he'll find something in there which will speak even further than what you hadn't expected whatsoever. And like I said, I'll never forget when I first heard the complete score to the film. And I've got no problem saying this. I literally bawled because I was just like, this is so much more epic, and it exceeded my expectations, but beyond belief. And I was living with a flatmate at the time in London, and he looked over and he went, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "No, it's just beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful." Just literally like, this is so beautiful. Like, I'm just so blown away by how much, well, music generally speaking can do that, but his music in particular was able to do that to me. And I hope it does the same. Well, not necessarily make people cry, but feel a certain way when they experience living in Crime Alley. I
also seen your, I think it's latest project. It's called Hands.
Yes.
That was really interesting. I have to say, like, can you tell me like how this idea came about? And that's quite emotional as well, I have to say. So, and beautiful. It's a beautiful story.
Well, thank you very much. So Hands is a 90-second documentary about my mum's nerve damage that she suffered when she had a stroke. So whilst living in Crime Alley, my mum had a stroke and basically started losing the feeling in her hands. So she had some nerve damage, and even to this day, she still has the nerve damage in her hands. And we're still trying to figure out, even to this day, like what's really gone on. But the film documents her physical and psychological trauma of going through this ordeal through the first 10 weeks of the first national lockdown in the UK. And I essentially made the film because as it comes back to what I've said before, that film has this ability to express something that you can't always verbally say, or express in a certain way that it's accessible to everybody. Like even me now trying to explain it can be difficult. And which is why for me, making the 90-second short, I wanted to document her strength fundamentally, but also show that even in the face of danger, that we still have to provide hope the best way that we can. And that's why in the film we say that even though that the NHS weren't able to help her at this given time, they have still done enough to help so many people out there that she has to applaud them, even if it hurts like hell doing it. And that's why I wanted to document that story. It's not just about the troubles that she went through, but it's about a sense of hope. Yeah.
That's what I love about it, because it's not just like saying what's going on and, turn it into something like negative, but it's really like a beautiful story. And I didn't know that it's that personal to you, but it really like the way it's shot, like it feels personal. And I think filmmakers should tell these stories that, I don't have a personal experience with that, but that's educated me on like thinking about something that I wouldn't think about before. So it's really beautiful.
Thank you very much. Like for me, like with any project that I go into, there has to be something attached to you in some way, whether it's a certain character or even the story itself, or even the theme. Something a part of you has to be attached in some way. Otherwise, it doesn't feel authentic. The voice has to be there on the screen in some way. And I think this is probably the best way that I can sum it up, actually. If Living in Crime Alley is my fandom and my love for cinema, then Hands is essentially my soul. It is like one person not being able to speak verbally, but through the eyes of a camera. And that is the best way that I can pretty much sum up what it means for me to be a filmmaker. Is there needs to be a truth behind all of the imagery in which we see. There's the truth that we see in front of the camera, and then there's the truth behind the camera. And somewhere along the lines, they do blur together. And with the two films that we've been talking about, I think they are hopefully evident, but sometimes they're not always evident. But that's the interesting thing about film, is that we're able to delve deep and disguise, but also discuss this even further.
So what's the future? I've seen on Instagram that you were part of a Jurassic Park fan film or something like that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So a few days ago, the release of Stegosaurus, a Jurassic Park fan film, was there. And I was a producer for the film. I also assistant directed it as well. It's made by the visual effects artist who worked on Living in Crime Alley. His name's Barry Wilkinson. So he wrote and directed Stegosaurus. And it's a lovely short family drama set in the world of Jurassic Park. But in regards to the future, it's time for the next big leap for me. So I'm actually going to be making my first feature film.
Oh,
yes. So I've had a script for the last 6 years, which I've been putting off writing, and while trying to get my life back together again, I was rewriting it a lot during the first lockdown and the second lockdown, third lockdown. And eventually towards this year, middle of this year, I just realized, you know what? This is another case of shoulda, woulda, coulda. I need to finally take this big leap, because if I don't take this now, I will never take this leap. And the best thing that has happened to me throughout this entire journey with living in Crime Alley in particular is that I'm not afraid to fail anymore when it comes to my art. Because if you are afraid to fail with your art, you're never going to push yourself. You can always stay in your comfort zone if you want to, but it's more important that you're out of your comfort zone, because you learn so much more. And actually, I think you express yourself even better. When the mind is is under pressure, your mind starts to work better, I believe. And at least I do anyway. That's why I'm at this point right now where I just want to say, do you know what? This is the right time. It's at a place where I'm incredibly happy with the draft that it's at. And, you know, in my head, I think I can do it. I said the same thing to myself back in 2018. I think I can make this film. I did make the film, and here we are now. And it was the same again with Hands. Well, I think I could do this. It might be tough, but I'll do it. And I did it. Here we are now. And I've realized that once I say I'm doing something, I'll just flat out go out and do it. And again, I just don't have that fear of failure as a creative anymore, because if you have that, then you won't strive to be who you're meant to be, which is your authentic self.
Yeah, I think 30 awards help.
I mean, there is that, yes, and I can't take credit for all of that, those awards, and they're not all mine, I should mention. But I mean, there is that, yes, there is that.
Great. And can you just, for like the last thing, can you tell us like a little bit what the feature is going to be about, or you don't have to reveal it if you don't want?
Yeah, I won't give away any plot details, but I can confirm that it's going to be essentially a one-location feature film, hopefully around the 90 to 100-minute mark, in which it is a comedy, action, drama, thriller, based off my own experiences in a particular workplace that I used to work at back in the university days. So, yeah, people can Google me afterwards and figure out what that job was, or you know, they can. Yeah, it's but like I said, I'm really excited about this. And the other good thing about it is that I know I'm going to learn so much from making it as well. So, yeah, bring on the challenge, I say. Definitely,
and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on my podcast, and keep on rocking.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that.